Mr. Young? All right, we will move on to the next Recreation Facilities Legacy Society. Proposed memorandum of understanding. Donato.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. No formal presentation. I'll just provide a high-level overview of the staff report you have in front of you. So attached to the staff report, you'll see an MOU, which establishes the framework for a collaboration between the City of Revelstoke and the Revelstoke Recreation Facilities Legacy Society. The purpose of the MOU is to support community fundraising for a future arena capital project. It also provides the flexibility for future city approved recreation facility priorities after the arena project is complete. The MOU is intended to ensure that fundraising efforts are transparent, coordinated, and aligned with city priorities. It does not commit the city to a specific capital project scope or timeline. It outlines the roles and responsibilities of the city and the society. The city would continue to lead the capital projects and the society would focus on community fundraising activities. Funds donated directly to the city would be administered through the city, and eligible donations would be issued tax receipts. Funds collected by the society would remain the responsibility of the society until transferred to the city for the approved capital project.
Okay, any comments, questions? Councilor Chair.
Thanks. Through the chair, I know you've gone back and forth with Mr. Doris. I did invite him here in case anybody wanted to ask me any questions. Are you guys aligned in everything that has been presented?
As far as I know, we are. Good, Kevin?
Fantastic.
Yep.
And I appreciate this is coming forward as another fundraising tool for recreational sports and leisure in the community. I'm in support, obviously.
Great. Any other comments, questions? Councilor or CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify and confirm that finance is supportive of this and that we have the available infrastructure to receive donations and issue tax receipts. So we'll be doing that internally. We're prepared for that. And so I just wanted to confirm that once this gets started, that we will be the venue where we'll collect the donations, put it in a reserve and issue tax receipts to all donors. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just would like to just make sure I understand. I think I'm understanding it. So the funds are held by the city, not by the society, when the tax receipt is issued.
We would be setting up a non-statutory reserve to receive all donations, to go into that reserve to be transferred to the society at the time a project goes ahead. They require the funds as per council resolution.
And then just for clarification, is it possible, it's not a critique whatsoever, just a question, can the funds go through the society first, or does it always go directly to the city?
Well, most donors would probably be seeking, through the chair, most donors would probably be seeking a tax receipt. Therefore, it goes through the city to issue a tax receipt. If any donor wants to donate straight to the society, they can. They just wouldn't be the benefit of, or the benefactor of a tax receipt. But we would set up a separate reserve, collect those funds, and at per council's direction, release those funds for a project to be named at a later date.
Thank you.
Follow?
Through your worship. So the society would collect the funds from fundraising initiatives. So if they had a 50-50 raffle, for example, at the Grizzly Games, the funds collected at that event would be held by the society until they transferred it over to the city. So that was the intent of that comment.
Right. Totally.
But has Mr. Parliament mentioned that most people looking for a tax receipt would have to make that donation to the city in order to get the tax receipt.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
That clarifies it. Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Councilor Lam.
Yeah, thanks so much. I recognize the structure from when we were fundraising for the skate park. We set up a similar fund. So The big benefit being the tax receipt from the donor. One question I have is the wording mentions that it can be used for a new facility or a development or renovation of the existing facility. Further down the agenda today, we're looking at options for what needs to be fixed in the interim and trying to make some decisions on that. How are we making those decisions for, versus, for example, allocating it towards patching the roof or doing something in the forum versus a future facility? How are we gonna, in a day-to-day way, decide where this fund goes to?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the establishment of this society, the primary fundraising goal was arena redevelopment. So I think how we move forward is what I'd like to discuss with the next staff report and how those funds will be allocated. And I think it would just be a joint discussion with the fundraising society on how we're going to prioritize that fundraising that they're going to do and have more of a financial discussion on how we move forward with everything. Like, I'm not sure I'm really answering your question right now because I think there's a lot of moving parts to it that needs to have a lot more discussion as we move forward in the process. But I believe the intent would be to a new arena redevelopment project. Once that project is complete, the society would remain in place and help support other recreation projects in the future. Did I interpret that correctly, Kevin?
Right, Paul?
Thank you. No, just maybe just an observation that, people more likely would like to donate to the new thing as opposed to patching holes or that kind of stuff. So interesting to hear how the conversations go as we move along. But I think first things first is getting something in the fund and then, having those conversations happen.
Any other comments? Anything that you would like from us, Mr. Nato, regarding this? Do you want us to recommend that we support this memorandum of understanding going to council?
Yes, Your Worship, if there's no other feedback from council, yes.
So somebody want to make that motion for me? Councillor Cherry?
I move that the committee of the whole recommends the council to support the proposed draft MOU.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Devlin? Sorry, Councillor Lucelle, I guess I'm delayed in looking at you. I apologize. Get you next time.
That's all good.
Okay. All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nato. We're going to move on to item number 3 for you, Mr. Nato. Management of budget for existing arena facility.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So this report is coming before you in advance of budget preparations. We've started working on the budget preparations for the 2027 financial plan. And after receiving the most recent engineering report from RCJ Engineering, stating that the facility can operate in the near term for the next 5 to 10 years with proper monitoring and maintenance, we still have to address some long-term planning that's needed because of the age and the condition of the building. And while it does remain operational, we still have several components that require attention, and we're seeking council direction on the preferred management approach. In your staff report, there's 2 options. So option 1 is repair and sustain, where we focus on prioritizing repairs that are required to maintain health, safety, and regulatory compliance. And we limit capital expenditures to only what is necessary. And then we have option 2, where we upgrade the existing facility and we take a more targeted capital improvement approach, where we actually budget for those some of those longer term planning items, and just make the existing facility more appealing to the existing users and just kind of make it flow better than what it does right now. So we're looking for council feedback on how they would like us to manage this moving forward. And if there's any questions, please let me know. I have Director Black and Mr. Gibbs that are available to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? So when we look at, let's say we looked at option 2 and we're going to do some work on that, how are we going to basically fund those things as we move forward? And then with option 1, sorry, I'm asking 2 questions. I'll ask this question first and then go option 1.
So option 2, we would bring forward through budget discussions the capital projects identified, and we would come up with a funding strategy. Anything not available in reserves, there are some grant opportunities that we could potentially seek, but that would be all part of the capital plan project sheet that comes before council for consideration.
Good, thank you for just stating that publicly. And then with option 1, where it's repair and sustain. So we're looking at any risk aversion, that sort of thing, basically in that option 1. Am I correct in that?
Option 1 would be any kind of emergency or safety related item. One of the capital improvements identified that would fall under option 1 would be replacing the roofing membrane, especially on the curling rink side. From my understanding, that project needs to move forward.
Okay. Good. Well, thank you for that. Council, any comments from any of you? Council Lusso.
Thank you, Mayor Sills. Question through to Director Donato. With option 2, does that extend the life of the building, or is that just something that we're looking to improve the structure just for the 5 to 10 years that we have?
Through the chair, depending on what upgrades we do, it could potentially extend the service life of the building, but not to a level, to my understanding, not to, like, we're not going to get another 40 or 50 years out of the building.
Follow-up question, Council?
Yeah. Is there any of these that are listed in the report that would cause the building to come up more up to code? If we're talking about making improvements, I just want to make sure that we're not going to open a can of worms if we're considering that option.
Mr. Gibbs,
Thank you for that.
he's in charge of cans of worms.
Yes. So, through your worship to all of council, it is a bit of a fine line. So when you're looking at the scope of work associated with each of these individual items, on their own, they don't trigger significant code upgrades with the individual items. If you were to stack all the items in a single category under a single project, then there may be a few upgrades, targeted upgrades that would need to be done associated with it. But on their own, as they come up for renewal, or as they come up within the end of life for each of these specific aspects throughout each year, if you're doing them on a case by case basis, it's considered more of maintenance versus a big repair and replace. The only item that was kind of included in here where we're looking at that there may be some potential code upgrades specifically with the individual project is replacing the cooling lines and arena slab. There may be a couple of targeted code items associated with that, specifically when you're ripping out the slab and you're looking at the dasher boards. There may be some accessibility or egress areas where you have to look at upgrading a few aspects. We're not talking a significant, that suddenly changes the entire building. We have to reassess the entire building. It would be targeted based on scope within each of these individual capital projects. And to Director Donato's point previously, these capital items that are identified within this report are not inclusive of any structural upgrades or modifications to the existing roof structure. It is specific to more equipment and maintenance items within the building itself, not the building structure. That is a completely separate item.
Right. Is there a follow-up, Councilor Lusso?
Yeah, one last one. So if we're going with the first option of just repair and sustain, we're able to obviously Director Donato talked about the roof membrane, but we're able to sustain minor hockey and all the programming that we have within the arena within that 5 to 10 year window before we can get a new facility organized and built.
Mr. Donato, comment?
Yes.
Yes. Any other questions, Councilor?
Nope, that's everything.
Councilor Tucker?
It's my opinion that we focus on option one with limited amounts spent to maintain the building, obviously life safety. If it was possible to not have to replace the cooling lines in the arena slab and have a new facility in the works to save us that $2 million, it'd be fantastic. But the community knows, or should know, and this group must know, that the arena is oversubscribed. The whole point of the multi-purpose facility was to include a number of other groups in the future. Just maintaining this to the minimal level to get us to that point would be my suggestion. Well, Ms. Donata can comment on the arena user groups and how we're all kind of fighting for the same amount of less time that's available while we're having an increased usage.
Any comment, Mr. Donato, before I go to other councils?
No, Your Worship, I don't think so. I think arena usage, how we manage this moving forward are somewhat different topics.
Right. Okay, thank
For
you for
me, it's
that.
just moving forward with how would you like us to maintain the existing facility? Because there's lots we could do.
Sure. Councilor Plum?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. It seems to me the question between option one and option two is, are we serious about all the previous reports that we've just heard? Is it our intention to move ahead with either a major reconstruction or replacement of the arena facility with or without multiplex? Hopefully multiplex. So if that's our intention moving forward within the next council term, then it would seem to me option two is, other than the necessary components for life safety, would be a responsible use of funds. And so, that one of the things I've seen over this, long time is we keep on wavering as to where we're going because there's different sentiments in the community that start to influence us one way or the other. And that's costing us time, it's costing us money, and it's ticking on the arena. So we're fortunate to be in that place to say, okay, yeah, we got another 5 years, little caveat there. But really, I would concur that if we're being genuine with our statements here, option one is the only responsible option for the event.
Good, thank you for the comment. Anyone else? Councilor Romano, then Councilor Stiglitz.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Souls, and thanks to staff for following up today. I had some conversations, just some detailed questions on the questions about the options. My one thing I was going to ask for now is just a quick update on our reserve levels. We would, I assume, be and a little bit clarity on what is going to be from reserve or what is going to be budgeted. One of the issues I understand is that some of these projects and other projects that are listed here have essentially been put off in the interim while we were having the ongoing discussions. It looks like it's going to be, a ways until we get to a decision about what's going forward. So the question is, where are we at for reserves, and what out of this list is something that we ought to be going forward? So I understand like the curling club roof is something that we need to look at, I haven't seen, for example, the slab's performance lately. I'm not sure exactly what we're seeing there. So what do you anticipate in the timeline, something from a life safety perspective or preventing more, critical issues in the facility would have to be done, even if we in a relatively short period of time, opt for a new facility and get our plans together.
So, through your worship, we have just under 4 million in the Arena Capital Reserve Fund. In terms of what's proposed forward from 2026 to 2030 in the capital plan, we have about 185,000 for the arena redevelopment project. So the funding for that amount is a combination of general capital reserve and the financial stabilization reserve fund. And then we also have about 26 to 30,000 a year in just small capital, and that's to deal with minor maintenance of the facility, like smaller items that need to be dealt with. Moving forward, we'd have to bring forward a capital plan that would identify the funding sources for each of those projects. And that's usually done in consultation with the finance director. And then that conversation happens with council on how we're going to fund those projects. In terms of what immediately needs to be done, it's my understanding that the roofing membrane is the one that we need to focus on, and that the other items can probably be budgeted forward in forward years if need be. And that's kind of how we've done it in the past with some of these larger projects. They've been put into the financial plan, and then they've been kicked back and back and back, because each year we get those components assessed to determine, like, are we at risk at failure? Can we go another year with putting it off? And then based on that assessment of those components, we kind of push the project out as much as we can, recognizing that we've had the assessment, so there's some confidence that we'll be okay for another year, but that if something does happen where there's an emergent malfunction of one of these components where we have to go in and replace them, that could result in loss of ice time, loss of our ice, and emergency repair for something we haven't funded. So that would be the finance director deciding where the funds come and how that project unfolds. It's happened in other areas of the city and we managed to deal with it. And that's probably how we'd have to move forward with this facility. I don't know, Kenny, did you want to add anything, or Steve, summarize it?
Yeah, real quick, to the worship of council, Director Now is correct in this. Like, we will be reviewing this building on a yearly basis. The plan or the historical process of doing an annual structural assessment will continue until we are no longer utilizing this building. And during those assessments, if there are major concerns that are identified, that would be brought forward to council's attention immediately. If there's a major structural concern or a major life safety concern, again, we would be bringing that directly to council. We would have that discussion directly with you, bringing forward our recommendations on how to address those in an immediate nature. The other item is the roof membrane. That has had a recent assessment done on it. We are waiting on the final report to get the exact condition of that roof. We are aware that there is some maintenance concern as far as the curling roofs portion of it. So that is being looked at, and then we are looking to get a quote on what it would cost to repair if the existing the roof membrane on the over top of the arena portion of it is sufficient to last for another few more years. Can we then separate off just the curling roof portion to do an immediate repair on just that portion, and then what those costs would be? But once we do have those final numbers, if it is something that is an immediate concern and that would need to be done, to Director Donato's point, we will be bringing forward a budget request to request those funds.
Appreciate it. Follow.
Yeah, just a follow up, and this is just sort of thinking on the fly, and thanks so much for the responses from staff. If we more or less go for option 2 with just the purpose of sensible budgeting, so knowing what is on the horizon and what will be needed, and what resources will be needed, can we budget for those items? Then once we get further down the project management pathway and, for example, arrive at a decision about what we're going to do, then adjust on the fly based on daily assessments. So the intent would not be to say we are going to go through with all of these. We are just going to budget them, and once we get to the decisions that we need to make and know what the future we can push those back or move those on as needed. So I'm just hoping to gather staff thoughts from more of a finance and budgeting perspective on that approach.
Through your worship, I understand what you're saying, but moving forward in that manner impacts the overall budget for the city. And if we're bringing forward those projects in our budget, we're needing to identify a funding source for those projects, which will have a tax implication if it's coming out of general capital reserve. So I don't know what that would look like. I don't know if Mr. Parliament wants to comment on that. I know Ms. Armstrong's not here to comment on it, so.
In relation to the reserve, in relation to the overall budget impact.
Whether we can budget for all of this and then change our mind at the last, on the fly, that we're not gonna move forward with these projects. My concern would be the overall impact to the city's budget and the taxation levels that we're setting, and then not moving forward with these projects. I think it's not, I'm not sure how finance would manage that.
Well, through the chair, the best way I think to answer that is roughly, we started in 2024. We're in year 3, just completing year 3. We roughly kick in just over $1 million a year in the arena reserve. It compounds annually. It's now grown to 4-point-some million. By 2030, it'll be 7-point-some million. You can use those funds to leverage grants to pay for the facility. So the arena reserve was set up by this council, and it's aggressively growing. Now, in terms of the Revelstoke Forum and the multi-purpose, what we call project management plan, using available funds just to band-aid the forum, which is essentially option 1. We will have funds available moving forward to do just that. But in terms of coming up with additional capital over and above the 2% that we levy on all properties that basically generate roughly 1.2 million a year, that would be up to council to either increase that amount, which would not be recommended because that 2% sort of adds to your core services and adds to your new asks. And as you know, in 2026, we approved a 5.75% tax increase. It has been the policy of this council to keep that increase relatively low compared to other jurisdictions, and we're currently under 6%, which makes us one of the lower tax jurisdictions in this region. Some communities have gone to double digit. So where does the extra money come from? That's where we'd have to come back in the plan and leverage other funding sources to pay for any additional capital, whether it's directed at the forum or the new facility. Right now, I don't think staff would be recommending that the arena reserve go to 3% unless core services can drop and the new asks can remain stable to try to keep the overall tax increase at around that 6% figure. That's a policy decision. That's a policy decision of council.
Is there a brief follow-up, Councillor, before I move on to other councillors?
Sure, yeah. I guess my thought, for example, say we have 2 scenarios. Scenario number 1, a year from now, council decides we're going to build an arena, specific arena 5 years from now. Scenario number 2, a year from now, council decides we're going to build a new arena 10 years from now. And under the second scenario, some of these things need to happen before that 10 years is up. At that point, if we have not budgeted for those, we are going to begin a tax pickle at that point in how we're going to come up and pay for those, is my understanding. And that's why my thought is to budget specifically for this. The arena reserve is not going to these upgrade or these maintenance and upgrade projects. Is that correct?
Mr. Parliament?
The goal for staff is not to fund a new arena with just the arena reserve. The arena reserve is to leverage provincial federal grants, and also coupled with our newly created Recreation Society. What the grant funders typically ask for is their community commitment. That's by way of debt. That's way of a commitment that we're prepared to issue a debenture or go to the ratepayers on a referendum call for so much debt and how much the community has raised. So we, the city, would be using the RENA reserve, any funds we would generate through the community, through the society efforts, local fundraising, and leverage that for a grant opportunity. It is never the intent to have the taxpayer fund a new facility entirely from taxes by way of debt or the RENA reserve. So in summary, the RENA reserve and local fundraising would be used to leverage a grant through the new Build Canada Strong Fund to the tune of X dollars to build a new facility. Staff are aiming within 5 years, not 10 years, consistent and aligning with the third-party independent reporter also forum. So in an ideal situation, it would be 1/3 grant, 1/3 community raised, and 1/3 debt. And we can certainly achieve, if it's a $50 million project, we can achieve a grant of 25, 30 million. That's less debt and less community donations. That's sort of the parameters of what we are working at now with this project management plan. But it's never the intent to fund this entire facility on the backs of the taxpayer alone.
And so in answer to the councilor's question, we wouldn't be using the arena funding that we're saving for the new arena to fix the things that are on the old one. Is that correct, Mr. Nunn?
Through your worship, just to address Councillor Orlando's question. If I'm hearing you correctly, you would like to see these items built into the 5-year capital plan, not necessarily for 2027, but in future years, so that we have the funding identified in case we need to do it, so that there would be no tax implication for 2027 moving forward.
Yeah, I'm just, yeah, thank you. Yeah, more or less my concern is that if we decide to, if it's gonna take us 10 years before we get under construction, is the ice slab gonna totally fail by then? And then are we gonna be in a pickle 5 years from now when we haven't budgeted for it and staff come and say, we can't have hockey this year, we gotta next year because it's failed or the roof is leaking or the cooling tower has totally failed. I'd want to have contingency in case we get to that point. And I think also it'd be great to light the fire a little bit for council to get to the key decisions on location, scope, et cetera, to move forward. So I'm just concerned that we're going to have a budget shortfall since these haven't been on the budget, except for I think the slab is on 2030. We haven't had them on the budget. So maybe it could be an incentive to say, okay, we're going to have to identify this funding, but if we move forward on this new project, then that would relieve us of that commitment.
All right, thank you, Councilor Digby.
Okay for it now. Thank you, sir.
Councilor
Yeah, sorry, through the chair, just kind of to, I don't know, maybe discuss this with Councilor Orlando a little bit on his points. I could be wrong about this, and I don't claim to be an expert. This would probably need to be through finance, but I believe we as a council made it pretty clear that we intend to move forward with a new facility. That has been kind of the goal as a consensus of council the whole time. So I don't think we're interested as a council in paying for any updates to the current facility with money we've been saving towards a new facility. I don't necessarily think that's like a statutory rule, though. I think future councils in the scenario you're talking about, there's an emergency where the ice is failing. It is an arena reserve. I'm assuming they could make the decision at that time to take money from that reserve and use it for these repairs. I could be wrong because I don't know what the specific terms around said reserve was. Like obviously when we started it, we said it was a facility, and that was our goal, and that's still our goal. I think council in the future could change their mind and take out of that reserve and it's in the general area of a arena reserve. I mean, if that was their will to do so.
Mr. Donato, comment on it?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't recall the wording on the bylaw. I believe it's for the arena redevelopment project. I don't think there's any additional description on the bylaw. I do have it.
Mr. Gibbs may have that.
I do have it up here. Our manager of finance did send it over to me before this meeting. So it does state that the monies for the general operating fund budget as provided for in the financial plan, general operating fund surplus as determined by council, may from time to time be paid into the arena development reserve together with interest earned, and then that monies from the arena development project capital reserve fund shall be used to fund the arena redevelopment project, including any land, machinery, or equipment necessary therefore, and or any associated debt repayments incurred as a result of the borrowing for the project.
Great, thank you for that. Councilor Palmer?
Yeah, I'll take a slightly different lens than Councilor Orlando. So to me, by funding through the 5-year capital plan, these items gives us or future council an excuse to kick the can down the road even further. And so I see that as this wavering intent where we're heading, going ahead. That said, if there is an emergency, we do have contingency reserve funds for things, and future councils have ability to look at what budgeting, including capital plan priorities are in the future.
Yep.
So I personally wouldn't want to see a 5-year capital plan for those items as funded. However, we also have an unfunded list, which is kind of an interesting thing. And if we want to put them as a placeholder, then they're there identified for, just so they're identified unfunded capital.
All right, Councilor Lonnie, one more time.
Yeah, just one last question. I hope to clarify this. If 3 years from now, a critical life safety issue is identified, some breaks, some falls apart, will we be able to draw, and we can't open the facility, it's, next season or whatever, will we be able to draw from the arena redevelopment reserve to fix that critical issue to keep the show on the road?
Mr.
Well, this would account for his
Oh,
department.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, it's a great question, Councilor Orlando. That's something that staff have always had in our mind when we set up this reserve. It's not statutory. It is classified for arena development, but it's not statutory. It's not like a DCC reserve that is mandated to go to a specific project and a specific service. If the Revelstoke Forum falls ill to whatever needs to be done to keep that facility going, and the only pot of funds we have is to access the arena reserve, council will make that decision most likely based on a staff recommended action. At that time, it just draws down the reserve, less money for a new facility, but it's not statutory. So you can still make that decision at that time, as Councilor Palmer just reiterated. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Councilor Chair?
I move that that committee of the whole recommends option 1 be endorsed for the management budget for the existing arena facility.
Seconded by Councilor Stabenhurst. Any further discussion on this motion? Councilor Palmer?
Thank you, Mayor Soles. I think that kind of reaffirms decisions even with the previous council and earlier on our term as well. So I'll be in favor of that. It is also setting a potential tone going into the next term. Once again, thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried. Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Neto. Appreciate all your time today. Moving on to item 9, departmental updates, verbal economic development, second order discussion.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So I'm just going to give you guys, as mentioned, a verbal update. You guys have the presentation attached to the agenda. So this is covering us up to July for the Community Economic Development Department. So looking at so far, we have had 4 Economic Development Commission meetings, Tourism Initiatives Committee meeting, 4 Social Development Committee meetings, and 4 grant applications and extensions submitted. So one of the big priorities coming into my role was to get a solid understanding of where we sat within our committees and commissions, as also looking at outstanding grants and projects that were tied to grants to make sure that we were prioritizing those and getting our funding commitments and reporting dealt with. So the first project that we looked at was the West Side Road we had a presentation to you guys. We are working on the feedback that we got from mayor and council, and Michelle has successfully submitted the REDIC final report off to the governing body there, and we are just waiting on any feedback that we might have, but so far everything looks good. With the submission of that particular report, it now opens us up for eligibility when and if another REDIC grant is announced. So they typically announce them in July. They have not yet. If one does come up, then we will be ready with other projects that we could potentially fit within that funding. We also have the funding. We are looking at the Revelstoke Airport Business and Master Plan. So that is something that we are looking at. We were denied the Air Access Program grant application for reasons as the ownership structure wasn't finalized, but we continue to work with staff in understanding when that asset will be finalized, and then we'll go right into the utilizing the grants that we do have. A Canada Export grant was pivoted towards this particular plan, and we'll move forward with getting that ready. The tech strategy, so there was local tech talks. We worked with a great partner in Chronometer, who really spearheaded the project in terms of having the rental of the facility taken care of, brought some pizza in for everyone. So it was an excellent partnership, and we look forward to continuing the tech strategy and tech talks. The data project that has been ongoing since late 2025, the geographic geofencing has been finalized, and we're just waiting for the implementation of it. So this is where we're looking at that MasterCard spend data to measure visitation, where people are coming from, where they're spending their money, and then layering that in and against air quality issues, how that affects spending, snowpack reporting, what that looks like. We're currently going after the TELUS data for good. So Michelle's been working diligently on trying to capture some more of that free data. It is a process, so we're just waiting to hear back from TELUS. The business retention and expansion is an ongoing program within community economic development, as well as a great partner project with the chamber. So one of the first things I did on my day 2 of my role was I attended the business walks with the chamber. I actually went with Executive Director Caroline, and we went around and met businesses. So again, great partnership, great opportunity to reach out to the businesses and understand their pain points and challenges, and opportunities to support from both organizations. The Backcountry Access Plan. So Michelle was able to attend an Outdoor Recreation Council of BC conference in Kamloops and brought back some really good information, as well as some contacts that we can apply as we bring this project to light that does have some associated grant funding tied to it. The resort development strategy. So the TIC is a committee that is done on an as needed basis. So they were able to achieve the submission of the final MRDT report to the government, and that was recently approved as submitted. So the next steps will be working with Tourism Revelstoke on their 2027 tactical plan, and then looking forward into the repeal date, which is in 2027 for their new 5-year strategy. RMI funding report was submitted to the province, and then RMI 2026 funding check requests have gone out, and constant communication has been kept with the applicants on when funding is going to be dispersed. And then I'm going to bring up Megan McIsaac to talk just a little bit about her social development committee and social development role that she has been working on.
Ms. Carly. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Welcome, Ms. McIsaac.
Thank you. So one of my projects picking up that I've been working on to completion is the poverty reduction strategy and sustainability plan for Revelstoke. The action plan, the final draft was completed, and the action plan is being put in place on all of the different components of that, which includes transportation, food security, housing, all of the things under kind of the social umbrella that really affect stability in our community and poverty reduction on a whole. The heat response emergency plan. So this was something that was on my desk when I first came in a year ago. I think in 2022, there was a UBCM grant that funded a consultant to create this emergency response plan. I was in contact with Dave Moon before he had retired to go through that plan to kind of whittle it down into more of a concrete action plan. So I did all of those updates and then it left my desk in Q2 here with all the edits and it was sent to the RIEMP Management Committee. So that is left with them. One of the things I added to my reports is the grant administration for CBT Ready. So this year, the CBT Ready grant was moved from corporate administration and it's with me now to administer the program. So in Q2, I completed most of the 2025 final reports and pullback release from that program from that year. And I also completed working with finance, the final report for 2025 and submitted back to CBT. And then next month we'll be rolling into 2027 already and then completing 2026. So it's a full cycle, full year. So the Ready grant for 2025 and then, yeah, rolling into 2026.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then finally, just, it's been a really great opportunity to go out and meet over the past 2 months, a bunch of industry sector stakeholders. I've had some great meetings with Jason Kelder from Revelstoke Mountain Resort, Mike Lavecchio from CPKC, meetings with the Community Futures in the Chamber. We're looking at an ACTAV Alliance, reestablishing that, as well as a business and visitor information center group, which will allow regular monthly meetings between Tourism Revelstoke, Community Futures, the Chamber, and CED. So we're really working at building those relationships, the collaboration opportunities, and putting together a solid strategy for work for 2027. So that's the Q2 report.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Ms. Procession? Appreciate the work and the way that your group is gelled as you come in. I appreciate that and the working together with the other people. So it's pretty awesome for us to see, and that's what this council is hoping for. So kudos to you and your staff. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to communications organizational chart. Mr. Parliament, are you reading that one?
Sorry, Marisol, you added an item 9B to the agenda.
Oh, I did. Thank you. Let's go to the Sophie clarification 9B. Thank you. I'm reading my computer and not my paper.
Sorry. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take 5 minutes and respond to some very serious online misinformation that's circling regarding the Sophie reports. Just allow me 5 minutes to basically provide the public some background as to what Sophie is and what it reports out to. Sophie stands for Statement of Financial Information. It's a public transparency document that was introduced over 40 years ago. And at the time, any employee making over $75,000, their salary must be disclosed, union or non-union, and any vendor who is paid by the municipality in excess of $25,000, that is to be disclosed in the Statement of Financial Information. So each year, municipalities issue a Sophie report. It is a public, transparent document, as I said, and it lists all the employees over $75,000 and all the vendors paid over $25,000. That has been law in British Columbia for over 40 years. Now, in terms of Revelstoke, we have collective agreements with both CUPE, our unionized staff, and IAFF, our fire department. Outside of those two collective agreements, we're left with roughly 13, 14 different exempt positions that are not part of the union, and exempt positions fluctuate each year depending on need. And those exempt positions in the last 6 years have grown in certain departments and have actually reduced in others. So overall, in 2020, the CAO at the time decided to do an org review, and some of these exempt positions took on new responsibilities, et cetera, and they were paid accordingly. In 2021, council at the time prior to the previous election decided to do an organizational review. They commissioned Ramsey and Matusi to do that organizational review. And in that review, it was suggested to be the employer of choice, hire a third-party independent consultant, and do an exempt compensation review. So in 2022, the city engaged the services through a competitive bid process. That is Julie Case, who is the consultant, to do an extensive employee compensation review for exempt staff. In 2023, 3, at that time, the recommendation, and it's this report that I hold here. It is the consultant's report. I'm not going to get into the details, but basically the consultant took 9 comparatives, communities of similar size to Revelstoke, did a comparison, looked at each exempt position, determined a range, and established as the policy at that time to pay what we call P50. Now, P50 means median. So if there's 9 different salaries, you knock the bottom 4 out, you knock the top 4 out, you take the 5th, and that's your median. It's not to be confused with average, which is the total divided by that number, but it's relatively close. So in 2023, the compensation report was approved by council. Each of the exempt positions, including myself, were given a grid, and at that time it was established at P50. In 2024, exempt staff received an increase equal to CUPE. There was no change in the compensation for exempt staff. However, we also made some amendments to the vacation policy where we reduced the liability, asking staff to be wipe out their vacation entitlements, reducing the liability to the city. So that amount of money, so if an employee had 200 hours of vacation, that will drive up their overall salary, and that will be reported in SOFI. In addition to that, we had some taxable benefits through our benefits program. That also adds to SOFI, that adds to the overall aggregate salary amount. Quickly, in 2025, council decided to move the P50 to P65 over 2 years. It is council's commitment to be an employer of choice. So council decided, let's pay our exempt staff as per the report, as per the compensation review, as per the range of salaries for all the positions. Let's pay them P65. And that is phased over 2 years. So in SOFI, you're going to see a bump in those salaries. And it's all to remain competitive. It's all about staff, retaining staff, and it's all about recruiting new staff. The 9-day fortnight, the enhanced benefits, the vacation policy amendments, the compensation review. It is all about staff retention, staff recruitment. Finally, Mr. Mayor, I want to put to rest, the mayor doesn't decide compensation, the corporate officer doesn't, the CAO doesn't, the chief financial officer, the director of finance does not determine compensation, nor does HR. Who determines compensation is council, and they base it on the policy. The policy is an independent third-party review done every 3-4 years. They adopt the review. They adopt the range of salaries based on the comparatives of 9 similar communities, and they act accordingly. The one thing a CAO has to do when faced with misinformation is protect staff. And when things are said that are incorrect, my job is to correct it. So I just want to say today that no one makes these decisions on compensation except for this governing body, council. And they base it on a policy established in 2025 that says you revert to a third-party independent review, and you complete that every 3-4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parliament. Any comments or questions for Mr. Parliament?
I'm sure this is in request of both mine and Lee's communication online with certain members of town, as well as some email follow-up and your question you received on the air yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to our organizational chart. Mr. Parliament, is that you?
I can certainly answer any questions. This is an organic document that changes basically yearly. It's always changing. This is an attempt from HR. Kudos to Jody and her team in trying to clarify all the changes that we have undergone in the last 4 years during this term of council to reflect current organizational chart. And what we've done here is eliminated names and only put positions under each department. Is it perfect? No. Will it be revised again in 2027? Most likely, but it just gives council an overview. And again, thank you to HR and the team for providing this of all the different positions that we have, both union and non-union, that make up the corporation.
Okay, appreciate it. Any comments, questions from council? Councilor Dunn?
Yeah, just through the chair, does Miss Williams know that you had to go outside of her color scheme because you ran out of colors, or?
I'll have to revert that to Jody Allen, HR. I don't have that skill to assign colors to different departments.
Thanks for the question. Any other comments? Seeing none, thank you, staff, for all that you've done for today to bring us up to speed on everything. I'm going to call for termination of this meeting. Someone want to make that motion? Councilor Staples, Councilor Devlin, all in favor? Motion's carried. We are done this meeting. Ms. Cheney, thank you. We will be taking a few minute break before we launch into our next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, for, I kind of put online.